Hello YouTube, it's Conspiracy Boy here, with another Carboot haul video. Now we're definitely able to upload, and it's not a chore anymore. I can definitely do these more frequently and spend time talking to you about it instead of rushing through it like we did last week. So yeah, back to the old school and how things used to be, with advanced lighting now. Yeah, that's top quality entertainment there. So, on with the haul. So this is what we got this week. I'll be honest, this was one of those weeks where I get a little bit annoyed at the car boot sale. Mainly at myself, mainly at other people as well though. Probably 50-50. Didn't see anything very interesting apart from some kid who walked straight over to a box that had a few PlayStation 1 games in and 2 boxed Nintendo 64 games. And I don't even remember what the first one was. It must have been very generic because I didn't show any interest in it. But there was one game called Yoshi's Island, which I'd never even heard of when I used to play Nintendo 64. So yeah, there was a boxed copy of Yoshi's Island, and he paid £5 for the 2 boxed Nintendo 64 games, which is a good deal, and, you know, fair play to him. If I'd got there and got it for that price, I'd be here right now, you know, showing you guys and saying how great it is. But, anyway, he put the games down, and I said to him, do you mind if I look at those? Why did I ask him? I should have just picked them up, and if he'd said anything, been like, well, you put them down, mate. I'm sorry, but I'm having this now. But instead, out in some random act of kindness, I said, like, oh, do you mind if I look at these? And he was like, oh, actually, I'm going to buy those. And yeah, that was it. He was done then. And I just sort of left in a bit of a huff, like, oh, I missed that, and stormed off. Anyway, I strolled back down to the same guy, and he had some booklets for other Nintendo 64 games. No other Nintendo 64 games, just booklets. One for GoldenEye and one for Mario Kart 64. So I thought he might take 50p for the both of them, and you never know, Carboot collectors might need them as inserts. He might just have the box, or, you know, someone might have a use for them. Anyway, I asked him, and he went, oh, you know what? And he jumped in the back of his van and pulled out a cartridge of both games, GoldenEye, Super Mario, and also some sort of James Bond looking lizard, CX64 or something, I don't know, I can't remember now. But yeah, and so I asked him, you know, oh, how much do you want for these? And he wanted a £5 each, and he just sold 2 boxed ones for a £5. So I was like, oh no, come on, you know, you just sold 2 boxed ones to that other kiddie a second ago. I'm not buying these at like twice the price of a boxed one, my friend. No way. And he went, oh no, but these ones have their manuals. So you sold them with the manuals and the box and the game, everything complete, for £2.50 each, and now you want to charge me a £5 for them each loose? And he went, oh, they're definitely worth that. So I just got huffy and was just like, oh, forget it, and just put them back in, and then all the vultures descended on it anyway. And yeah, that's just becoming more frequent now. Like, car booting's just generally not fun anymore. Today I'm going to try and show you guys how sometimes being good and friendly and nice and kind in car booting can help you win the day in the end. So yeah, anyway, back to the haul after my little rant about today's car boot. So, what did we find first? I think the very first thing was a bloke who just had a box of key rings that he was doing at 20p each, and this one was sat on the top. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think it says Pizza Frenzy, from the Pizza Shed. When I dug a little deeper, he also had this small little Leonardo. Let's see if we can make this lighting situation a bit better. How's that, YouTube? Maybe that's a bit better. So yeah, then he had the small little Leonardo, which from the damage on it, or just the general wear, I'd say is probably quite an old one as well, but probably like a bootleg Turtles keyring. So yeah, that was very cool. And he didn't have change, basically, to give me. He could give me 50p back, but not 60p back. So he said I could have one more. So I didn't really want one, and he was like, "Oh, go on, just dig deep. I'm sure you'll find another one." So I basically had to find another one. So I ended up with this little Alf keyring as well. Again, quite possibly some sort of bootleg, as none of these seem to have stamps on them except the first Turtles one. So that was 50p down. I think my next purchase on from that, I'm probably going to forget the order. Oh no, I think it was these. Someone had just pulled stuff out, and they were obviously just getting swarmed hard from people looking at their Xbox games, and these two women were just, as I walked over, one of them turned to the other, which I think was her mum, and said, "Should I get more stuff out the car?" And she went, no, it's manic as it is, just leave everything else in the car till we've dealt with this. So they were, not liking the way they were being hassled by traders. Anyway, so they were selling the games £2 each. It seemed a fair price, they all seemed in quite good condition. I got The Godfather 2, Call of Juarez, The Cartel, and 007 Quantum of Solace. Don't know if they're particularly good prices for those games, but it's certainly cheaper that I'd get them in my local game store, so they might be worth a play one day, or they might just end up on the rack here, full of other games I buy at Carboot sales that rarely ever get played. So yeah, that was £8. Next thing, maybe these. Just two little Pokemon figurines for 50p. Nothing really special there. Both the modern ones that I don't really know the names of. This fella, the lady claimed, costs $13.99 in the shop. It's yay big and looks like one of those heavily detailed early learning centre figurines. You get them in sort of upmarket toy shops, and they cost about $3.99 or $4.99. Yeah, very heavily detailed. I like this guy because he's like a cyborg. I don't know what the right word is. Gorilla, I guess. He's a cyborg gorilla samurai, and he has like a pair of Nike trainers on. I mean, the cyborgs. I couldn't really leave it behind. I picked another couple out thinking they would be sort of like 20p, 50p each, and she wanted £1 each on them because I was buying in bulk, and I went, alright, at that price I'm not buying the rest. They weren't anywhere near as cool as these. They were from like totally other different ranges. So yeah, in the end she went from £2 to £1.50 to £1.20, and we settled on £1.20, which is more than I'd like to pay for something like that, but you get a feel for the Carboot, and if you're making your second purchase sort of like 45 minutes into the Carboot sale, you know that there's not a lot out there, so anything that does take your fancy is probably worth a pickup. I sort of thought that at the time. Next, this is from a fella who's there every week, and he always has this same box of toys, but every week I find something different in it. And English isn't his first language, so it makes communication difficult when I say to him, how is there always more in your box? How is it always different from the week before? How is it new? And he doesn't understand, he just says they're 20p each. So I occasionally get some really cool finds. I mean, this is quite a beat up, old 90s style Batman. And this, I can't remember what it's from. Is it the Shadow or the Phantom? I'll try and tilt his head so the light hits it just right, because it's one of those where he's got the hole in his head that make his eyes light up. I don't think I'm going to get any further down than that. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to show it to you guys very well. But yeah, his eyes basically light up if the light hits it in the right angle. I'm not sure. It definitely says made in China, Kenner, 1994, Advance. And it looks like he's got a little holster for 2 guns either side. So yeah, he was 20p, and they had a small little scuffed up clear plastic Gengar. I just really like those little clear plastic Gengars. So yeah, that was 60p. I don't mind spending 60p and getting 3 things. That's why when you pay £1.20 for something, you sort of feel like you're getting gypped sometimes. Next box was 20p a figurine. Straight away I spotted the Biker Mice from Mars. One of them attached to one of the bikes. It's only now I've got back and I'm doing the video I realised that I told the guy I had 5 toys, and I guess if you include the bike as a figurine with this, then it's just one. But really, I should have probably, said that was one for the bike and one for him, especially at 20p a piece. Anyway, I gave him £1 for this little lot. 2 modos, one that's had his ears totally ripped off, or antennas totally ripped off even. Fella there from Lord of the Rings, with a cape but missing everything else. A little McDonald's toy of Kung Fu Panda character. There was literally nothing else in the box really. And this one of the quad bike throttle, I think on his bike, but it's like, must be some sort of like package deal version because it's very plain compared to his normal one. Yeah, definitely Biker Mice for Mice though, has their logo on the front, but yeah, very plain looking. So yeah, that little lot was £1. Again, you can't really complain, but you don't get too excited about it. I found this book for 50p, Pokemon Trading Card Guide, Player's Guide, sorry. It's really printed about the time they did the first 2 sets, so it's not much use for anyone who was playing it in the year 2000 onwards. Also found this little stylophone keyring. I'm not sure if it showed up on video a little while ago, but I had a Rolf Harris version of the stylophone, new boxed in, well, new with the box, but it was broken unfortunately. Whereas this little keyring one works beautifully, so it's nice to have like a little working one as well as the original Rolf Harris version. But might be difficult to find anyone else who'd want one of those, so it'll be difficult to get rid of one day. This was quite funny. There's a table with just these 3 Skylanders on, and I was only really interested in this because this is a weapon, and I'm sure my friends' kids have both of these characters already. So I asked her how much the Skylanders were, and she said they were between 15 and 20p each. So I picked up the 3 and said, well, I'll give you 50p for 3. So I'm either overpaying 5p if they're 15p, or I'm underpaying her by 10p if they're 20p. So I thought it was quite a fair deal, and she said no, 20p. And so I thought, right, well she means 60p. So I went to give her £1, and she gave me 80p change. And I said, what, 20p for the 3? And she said, yeah, for the 3 Skylanders, 15p, or, well, actually 20p because they're Skylanders. So she wanted sort of 5p each for them, I think. But yeah, it was just crazy. In the end, I just gave her the 50p and was just like, just take the change, because 50p for 3 Skylanders still seems like a relatively good deal to me somehow in my head. So yeah, 3 Skylanders. And then, just as we were finishing up, there was some old boy with a box of cars, some that he wanted £1 for, some that he wanted 50p for. I was only interested in looking in the 50p box really. I saw he had the little Joker van. I remember having this one as a kid. I really liked this. This was one of the only toy cars I properly liked, just because it was basically a postman pat van but with the Joker logo on the side. Somehow so friendly but dark. So yeah, we got that one for 50p. We got this Batmobile. They're all a little bit beat up. This is the 1989 version. He did have the 2002 version also, but that was in the £1 box, but this one was in the 50p box for some reason. And then there was this one, which is like a very small version of the 1960s Batman one. It says 1975 Corgi Juniors on the bottom, but it is still quite beat up. I mean, these sort of old cars are always a little bit scuffed up just from how they were stored, I think. There's a fella who had some Corgi Batman things new in box, and he was selling them for between 70 and 35 quid. It's just a bit too much money for me really. And then this was the last purchase of the first Carboot sale. This was one of the traders. It's not one I'm normally friendly with, but I always look at his stalls, and occasionally he has a few little things in there. I bought a Robin Hood action figure off him a little while back, one of the ones where it's clearly Robin Williams, or in fact I say clearly, it's clearly not Robin Williams, it's the worst representation of him ever, but Yeah, so I jokingly showed him that it was supposedly Robin Williams. Anyway, he had these, which I think are World of Warcraft figures. There was two other big larger ones that he wanted £10 for, which admittedly looked really cool as well. But this is like some sort of dark elf looking character with these awesome looking daggers. He's just got a cool pose, and he only wanted £4 for this one. So I thought for £4, I've never really seen them at Carboot sales before. He looks a bit like a purple zombie, and he's just so insanely detailed, even though I don't know even if it is from that game or that I will ever play that game for some reason. It's just such a cool figurine. So we got chatting. He asked me what they were from, and I told him I'm guessing World of Warcraft. We had a little chat, and as we were talking I looked over his selection of Gormiti figures, and in amongst there was this Battle Beast, and it's a Battle Beast I don't have, this cool little elephant dude. Yeah, I was really chuffed to find him, and he was really kind. He was like, take it away, and I thought no, because if you see people who pick up other stuff elsewhere and they're happy to sell it to you, if you know what it is and like it and collect it for not a great deal of money, I mean that's as good as you going out car booting every week almost. So yeah, it was awesome. So I gave him £1 for the Battle Beast, which is probably the most I ever paid for a Battle Beast, but it's still well worth it because ultimately it's a Battle Beast I don't have. And what with my recent holidays in Nepal riding around on elephants, how more fitting to have a little elephant Battle Beast front and centre on the Battle Beast shelf. So yeah, it was £5 with the trader there. So ultimately here I spent I think it was about £30, 8. Maybe £20 here. Yeah, about £20 there. And then I went to the next car boot, my low car boot, and it seemed rubbish. I did bump into one of the other local people, friendly collectors that I know, and he did really well. He picked some bits up. He looked like he'd had a good day. He said he hadn't been here that long, that didn't seem to be anyone else out there looking to buy these toys, so they were still there quite late in the day. And yeah, he'd done well. And because he's such a nice guy, I'm always happy to see that he's done well. That's always a plus, you know. It was like, even though I'm a little bit pissed off about missing out on the Nintendo 64 games, it didn't go to like some dirty trader. It went to some like young kid who looked like he was a collector of retro games. So yeah, I'm not angry. I would have been more upset if it was something else. But I have this and another little piece just off camera at the moment that I got at the last car boot very late in the day. I got there about 10 o'clock, and as I was walking around, there was one of those stalls where they just have boxes of DVDs. Instead of them being lined up nice, it's just like mountains of them. And as I walked past and looked at the mountain of DVDs, you could see there was loads of Xbox 360 games there, just lying strewn among DVDs and other assorted games. And I just said to the fella, like, oh, how much are your like video games on the floor here? And he went, everything's 50p. Everything. And I looked over and there's like Grand Theft Auto 5 and all the Call of Duty games and just crazy Xbox 360 games just strewn on the floor. So I just start grabbing handfuls of them. I must have a stack about 10 high, and I'm just grabbing them as fast as I see them. And he looks over and goes, oh mate, you want to check the boxes of those before you purchase them? So I opened the box and I went through the whole stack, and there wasn't a disc in there, not a disc anywhere to be seen. And I went, am I just looking through a stack of empty cases here, mate? Are there no discs? And he went, oh no, some of them have got discs. It's just a bit of a, just check before you buy, yeah? So I started flicking through, and probably about half the cases you opened were empty. And that half would tend to be their Xbox 360 games. And the cases that would have discs in would be sort of like Stargate Season 1, Disc 1, little covers, and there's a disc for that, or there's a disc for a, some terrible film starring Nicolas Cage or something, but all the games were empty. And he had boxes of these. I mean, this guy had well over 1,000 cases just strewn all over the place. I hadn't really picked up too much, and clearly, by the law of averages, with that many cases, you're bound to find some bits. And within about 10 minutes of me looking, I found enough, just little bits, that it made it worthwhile to spend my time just sorting through. So I started chatting to the guy and getting friendly with him, and I said, "Oh, do you want me to try and put some of these empty cases in a separate pile?" And he went, "Oh no, don't, you don't need to worry yourself, mate." And I went, "No, seriously, it's fine. I'm just going through them all anyway, so it's no harm, is it?" And he went, "Well, I mean, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to have done it myself. We just don't have the time. But if you want to do it, great." So I started going through and making a pile, and as I was like throwing empty Xbox 360 game cases around, people were coming over and going like, "Oh, look at this," and they were picking them up, and I was like, "Oh, you've got to check them first. Everything I throw over there, I've already checked, and it's just empty. Anything I throw in this box here, that's got a disc in, and you're good to go." And then I started finding piles of discs and like fishing out cases and putting things in. And I was finding Xbox 360 games that he would have sold me for 50p, but I just didn't particularly want, like lots of wrestling games and stuff like that. And I just thought, it's not what I'm into. But as I went along, anything I found that I was interested in, I put in a little pile, and anything that seemed really interesting and the disc might show up later, I also put to one side on the off chance. So after about 45 minutes of me sorting through this huge mountain of them, there were now 3 huge boxes full of DVDs, PlayStation 2 games, Xbox 360 games, just piled to the top, and 2 massive boxes of empty cases. So it was probably about 60-40, 70-30 that in the end, what he had that was useless and what was good. And people were coming over still, and I was basically selling their gear because I saw what was in there. So I was saying, "Oh, horror, yeah, look under that pile over there, yeah, there you go, PlayStation 2's over there." And I was generating a lot of sales for them. So yeah, they were getting real pleased with me. And the guy came over and he said, "Are you actually going to buy any of this?" And I went, "Yeah, mate, this is my pile here, this stack." And he went, "Oh, right, alright, well, we'll cut you a good deal on it at the end." So yeah, he did. He cut me a very good deal at the end. He's a really nice bloke, and yeah, hopefully we'll see him again sometime. So let's just show you some of the bits that we pulled out from the thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. Now, don't get all too excited at once, because it's not all full. So let's start with the most disappointing ones first, which are these. I found these 3 cases, and this is why I hunted through. I was so desperate to find Crash, Mind Over Mutant, Crash of the Titans, and Final Fantasy Ring of Fates. Not only are the cases in really good nick, but they all have their like instruction manuals as well. They just happen to miss the most important bit. Again, I think of people like Carboot collectors who tries to get everything in box and would sometimes find something like this loose for a couple of quid, but then where do you find the case? So I know he likes Crash. If they're of any interest to him, then he'll probably let me know. And then this one, Final Fantasy Ring of Fates, I've never heard of. It might be no good. The only Nintendo DS game I did find was Spyro Shadow Legacy. That was just loose in a box somewhere, so I just stuck it in one of the cases I had. Couldn't find the Spyro case, unfortunately, but yeah. So we got those, which was all disappointing. The only other Nintendo DS chip that I found anywhere was some equine sports or something. I don't know, something about horses. It sounded rubbish. And there was no box for that either, so I didn't even take that. He probably wouldn't have minded, but anyway, they're the most disappointing bits, those 3. These are pretty good. These are 2 PSP games I picked up. There's Warhammer Squad Command, that actually had the game in there and no one had picked it up for 50p, and also SSX on tour, again with the manual, and the game was already in there and just no one had picked it up. I found this, Killer Cuts, which looks like Oh, hold on. There's 2 in it. Oh, this is just some strange blank disc. Well, when this video's over, we'll stick this in the computer and see what it is, and if it's anything fun, we'll let you know. I think this is the Killer Instinct soundtrack. Do you remember that old Sega, Nintendo game, even? Yeah, I think it's the soundtrack to that, 1995. So yeah, I picked that up just for comedy value, I suppose. And they had Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, so I just picked that up because he was basically going to give this stuff to me, I thought, at the end. I found the case for The Darkness on PlayStation 3, which was about the only PlayStation 3 game I found in the whole thing. And then I just happened to stumble across the disc in the bottom of a box, so I took that one as well. Again, Battlefield Bad Company 2 was missing the disc, but was eventually found in a box. Halo Reach, I think this is one of the more recent Halo games. Again, the disc wasn't in there, but we found the disc and grabbed that as well. Sonic Unleashed, and also Sonic Free Riders, which annoyingly it says I think it needs Connect at all times, so I might need to get myself a Connect to play that. But yeah, Sonic Unleashed as well. Neither of those games were in the box. And this one as well, Kate West, The Vanishing Files. I mean, I've never heard of it. The chances are it's probably pretty worthless. And then these 3 I thought were really good finds. At first I thought this was the DVD of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it wasn't until I flicked it open that I saw it was a GameCube game. I'm sure it's going to be one of the most common of all, and probably awful, but I genuinely never see GameCube games at Carboot, so grabbed that one. They also had Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Chaos Bleeds. Again, picking it up thinking it was a DVD, opening it just to see if the disc was in there and finding it was a GameCube game, and then Prince of Persia, Warrior Within. So yeah, I was really chuffed with that first little batch. I mean, 1, 2, 3 Xbox 360 games, 3 Nintendo GameCube games, a Wii game, and a PS3 game, and the 2 SSX games, 2 PSP games. I then found these PlayStation 2 games. He had loads of PlayStation 2 games. I don't know why on earth I picked these ones out. Dynasty Warriors, Extreme Legends, Shadow Memories. I've never heard of Shadow Memories. You might have to look that one up because that looks very bizarre. Crash Bandicoot Twinsanity. I found the case for this just after I found the Nintendo DS ones, and it was one of the last things I found going through all the boxes was the disc. So yeah, Crash Twinsanity and NBA Street. I actually remember this being a brilliant game, and it seems like it has a cheat code in there, and it also has a memory card. Strangely, there was some really odd stuff, like as I was going through these boxes, that I found someone's national insurance card, which I actually snuck in the pile in case that was, important to somebody. But as the guy was cashing me off, he found it and then cut it up, so maybe that's for the best. I don't know. Yeah, and loads of paperwork about people getting taken to court, which was weird. Anyway, had these PC games: Wildlife Park 2, Black and White, Bench Tycoon, Zoo Tycoon, and Theme Park World, Rise of Nations, which also has some expansion, I think, in there. Rise of Legends, never seen Rise of Legends, but Rise of Nations was a great game. Lord of the Rings, the Battle for Middle-earth 2 expansion pack. Oh, I didn't see that was an expansion pack. Oh well. And Rise and Fall, Civilizations at War, which looked pretty big, but actually is pretty standard. So yeah, all in all, I had quite a stack of these. A lady then came over and was asking him if the controller in the box, which was a PlayStation 2 controller entangled in loads of cables, would work on an Xbox 360. And her grandson was repeatedly telling her, no grandma, that's not the right one. But she was adamant it would work, so she paid him 50p and then was trying to untangle it for about 20 minutes from just a box of random cables. He ended up giving her all the cables, and there was just cables for everything: Xbox 360s, PlayStation 3s, just it was just getting so frustrating that the whole time I'd been doing this, I'd just been watching him giving stuff away, just not knowing what it was, while I was selling Xbox 360 games I wasn't interested in at 50p a piece on his behalf. It was all just a bit mental. So I had my little stack, and then he said, you know, is there anything else you want? Have a look in the boxes that aren't DVDs and games, which I hadn't even looked in up until this point. And I pulled a few bits out from there that I thought might be of some interest. I got this because on the bottom it said Spectra Video Model Quickshot 1, so maybe that's from an old Spectrum console. He had this, which is like a little portable DVD player, which certainly needs a clean. I don't know if that'll come up on the camera, but that is absolutely disgustingly filthy, so that needs a real good clean. And this Sega Saturn steering wheel system. I actually picked up a Saturn console not long ago. No cables or anything on controllers, so haven't tested it yet. And then this, which clearly looks completely broken and absolutely ruined. It has game written on it, and it says 4 megabytes. Part of me thinks that this is like one of those cartridges for a Nintendo DS, but like one where you can program what you want onto it, but it almost looks too big to fit into the DS box, so I'm not sure if that's actually the case. But yeah, it looks like someone stood on it. It's like really compressed in the middle, and the plastic looks like it's popped and been scratched, and yeah, God knows what's happened to that. But I didn't know what it was, and neither did he, so he just chucked it in my box. And then we had to come to a price, and he counted it all up and said he wanted £27, a tenner for the assorted electrical goods, and then £17 for the God knows how many I have in this stack here that he wanted 50p each for. Oops, there we go. So in the end, I said to him, you know, what do you want? And he said, well, call it 20 quid. So he was willing to knock £7 off for me doing hours and hours work. Before I could say anything, I just looked at him and he went, actually just call it a tenner. And I was happy with a tenner. It looks like certainly enough games and assorted electrical equipment to warrant 10 English pounds. So I left feeling a bit exhilarated that by doing goods it can actually pay off, even if I missed out on those box Nintendo 64 games that are probably worth more than anything in this pile, to be fair. But Yoshi's Island goes for a mint in books. But yeah, that was my Carboot week, guys. Sorry it took half an hour. It seems when I've actually got the time to not rush things and tell you how it was, it seems like some big event, whereas when I'm rushed, I'm just like, this is it, I got that, and picked up one of those, signing off. So, yeah, it's nice to tell you a bit about what you go through in the effort to pick up these mountains of tat. But anyway, until next week, guys, Conspiracy Boy, signing off. Bye-bye.